Om Jnanatibrandasya Jnananjala-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shivtaparakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptakancha Nagaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So today we will continue reading from Bhagavad-gīta as it is, from His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, the founder-ācārya of International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So last time we continued with Krishna's instructions on the immutable spirit soul. We found out that what the modern science is presenting as the theory of evolution has a little bit different form in the words of Krishna, that spirit soul is not or the bodies are not developing, but the soul is going from body to body, and the bodies are fixed, basically, the species. Then also we spoke about the importance of performing one's duties under any circumstances, and also about the renounced order of life, sannyas. So today we'll continue with Krishna's instructions on various aspects of the spirit soul, because he's trying to make Arjuna understand the difference between the body and soul. So, Shloka 16. Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha, ubhayorapi drishtontas, tvanayos tatvadarshibhihi, na never asataha, of the non-existent. Vidyate, there is bhavaha, endurance. Na never abhavaha, changing quality. Vidyate, there is sataha, of the eternal. Ubhayoho, of the two. Api, verily. Drishtaha, observed. Antaha, conclusion. Two indeed. Anayoho, of them. Tattva, of the truth. Darshibhihi, by the seers. Translation: those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. Purport: there is no endurance of the changing body. That the body is changing every moment by the actions and reactions of the different cells is admitted by modern medical science, and thus growth and old age are taking place in the body. But the spirit soul exists permanently, remaining the same despite all changes of the body and the mind. There is a difference between matter and spirit. By nature, the body is ever-changing, and the soul is eternal. This conclusion is established by all classes of seers of the truth, both impersonalists and personalists. In the Vishnu Purana 2.12.38, it is stated that Vishnu and his abodes all have self-illuminated spiritual existence. Jyotimshi Vishnur Bhuvanani Vishnuhu. The word existent and non-existent refer only to spirit and matter. That is the version of all seers of truth. So, even the modern science came to understand, as I mentioned last time, that all the cells within a certain period are completely changed in the body. I think it's 7 years. So basically body in 7 years is completely different body. So even they say that body is constantly changing, and compared to that, the soul is always the same. The soul doesn't change at all. It's just changing the bodies around. So this is the difference between the matter and spirit. In the material world, nothing is permanent, everything is changing. So if we expect something eternal in material world, this means we are in illusion. It cannot be. So, but because our nature, original nature is of eternality, so somehow this is coming out, and we are expecting these things, that everything will be eternal, everything, we will know everything, and we will be in constant happiness. So we are expecting these three things, but they are not possible in the material world. So, yeah. And also the impersonal is impersonal is because this is the level of moksha. So they both accept this thing, that there is a body and there is soul, and soul is eternal and body is temporary. But then above this level, impersonalists cannot go beyond. This is the beginning of the instruction by the Lord to the living entities who are bewildered by the influence of ignorance. Removal of ignorance involves the establishment of the eternal relationship between the worshipper and the worshipable, and the consequent understanding of the difference between the part and parcel living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can understand the nature of the Supreme by thorough study of oneself, the difference between oneself and the Supreme Being understood as the relationship between the part and the whole. In the Vedanta Sutras, as well as in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Supreme has been accepted as the origin of all emanations. Such emanations are experienced by superior and inferior natural sequences. The living entities belong to the superior nature, as it will be revealed in the 7th chapter. Although there is no difference between the energy and the energetic is accepted as the supreme, and the energy or nature is accepted as the subordinate. The living entities, therefore, are always subordinate to the Supreme Lord, as in the case of the master and the servant, or the teacher and the taught. Such clear knowledge is impossible to understand under the spell of ignorance, and to drive away such ignorance, the Lord teaches the Bhagavad-gītā for the enlightenment of all living entities for all time. So we have to understand our position in the relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that we are of the similar spiritual and eternal nature, but we are not supreme. We are just part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and He is our, to say, superior in this way. But otherwise, we are Lord's emanation. There are two categories of this. It will be mentioned in more detail in the 7th chapter. Anyway, Bhagavad-gītā is mentioning these things in very short forms. More we can learn in Srimad Bhagavatam, and then also in Chaitanya Charitamrita. There is very much details about Lord's expansions and all these different energies. They are described there in more detail. So Bhagavad-gītā is just referring very simply to start some tattva here, some truth. Yeah. So because in the beginning we don't, or in the conditioned state, we don't understand this this relationship. That's why Lord is coming and is showing us our position. So 17. Avinashi tu tadvidhi yena sarvamidam tatam vinasham avyayasyasya nakaschit kartumarhati. Avinashi, imperishable too, but that vidhi, know it. Yena, by whom, sarvam, all of the body, idam, this, tatam, pervaded, vinasham, destruction, avyayasya, of the imperishable, asya, of it, nakaschit, no one, kartun, to do, arhati, is able. Translation, that which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. Purport. This verse more clearly explains the real nature of the soul, which is spread all over the body. Anyone can understand what is spread all over their body. It is consciousness. Everyone is conscious of the pains and pleasures of the body in part or as a whole. This spreading of consciousness is limited within one's own body. The pains and pleasures of one body are unknown to another. Therefore, each and every body is the embodiment of an individual soul, and the symptom of the soul's presence is perceived as individual consciousness. This soul is described as 1/10,000th part of the upper portion of the hair point in size. The Shvetashvatara Upanishad 5.9 confirms this. Balagrashata bhagasya satadha kalpitasya cha bhagojivaksa vigyeyak sachanatyaya kalpate. When the upper point of a hair is divided into 100 parts, and again each of such parts is further divided into 100 parts, each such part is the measurement of the dimension of the spirit soul. Similarly, the same version is stated. Keshagrashata bhagasya shatamshah sadrishatmakaha jivak sukshma svarupoyam sankhaya tito hichitkanaha. There are innumerable particles of spiritual atoms which are measured as 1/10,000th of the upper portion of the hair. So, I will continue and then wrap up. Therefore, the individual particle of spirit soul is a spiritual atom smaller than the material atoms, and such atoms are innumerable. This very small spiritual spark is the basic principle of the material body, and the influence of such a spiritual spark is spread all over the body as the influence of the active principle of some medicine spreads throughout the body. This current of the spirit soul is felt all over the body as consciousness, and that is the proof of the presence of the soul. Any layman can understand that the material body minus consciousness is a dead body. And this consciousness cannot be revived in the body by any means of material administration. Therefore, consciousness is not due to any amount of material combination, but to the spirit soul. In the Mundaka Upanishad 3.1.9, the measurement of the atomic spirit soul is further explained. Esha nuratma cetasa veditavyo yasmin prana panchada samvivivesha. Pranaishchitam sarvamotam prajanam yasmin vishuddhe vibhapatyesha atma. The soul is atomic in size and can be perceived by perfect intelligence. This atomic soul is floating in the 5 kinds of air: prana, apana, vyana, samana, and udana. Is situated within the heart and spreads its influence all over the body of the embodied living entities. When the soul is purified from the contamination of the 5 kinds of material air, its spiritual influence is exhibited. So what we perceive in the body as a consciousness, that is the symptom that the spirit soul is there, and one can perceive only one's own body. One cannot perceive other bodies. Whereas the Supreme Lord can, because he is present as the super soul in all bodies, so he is aware of all the bodies. As we stated in the introduction to Bhagavad-gītā, it was mentioned there, those differences. And regarding the size of the spirit soul, it's like upper point of hair divided into 10,000 parts. It looks like maybe it's not so little, but still this is enough for the material convenience is not to see it. Like no microscope can see this size. So it is mentioned here that is smaller than the material atoms, and these spirit souls are innumerable in the quantity or count or in number. So basically, this is how we can distinguish the presence of the soul, that we we feel the presence of consciousness in the body. And this atomic soul is floating in the 5 kinds of air, which are situated in the body. And also by some practices, this can be the yogis can move their spirit soul or themselves within the body to higher parts, to higher chakras, and then even they can prepare to leave the body in this way by their own will. So, but originally the soul is situated within the heart of the living being, and super soul is also there with him. Okay, the Hatha Yoga system is meant for controlling the 5 kinds of air and circling the pure soul by different kinds of sitting postures, not for any material profit, but for liberation of the minute soul from the entanglement of the material atmosphere. So the constitution of the atomic soul is admitted in all Vedic literatures, and it is also actually felt in the practical experience of any sane man. Only the insane man can think of this atomic soul as all-pervading Vishnu Tattva. And this is what is sometimes happening, that even yogis, if they meditate and they start seeing the supreme, super soul, they think that they are themselves the super soul. So they cannot, unless they are instructed what they are going to experience, they will think that it's themselves, and also that they are Vishnu Tattva, they are the Supreme Lord. So this confusion can be there. So we know that what's the difference between soul and super soul by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada also gives us various others instructions how to recognize when we are progressing spiritually, how to understand these things which are coming to us, and then we can easily distinguish and not be bewildered or get stuck in some ideas. The influence of the atomic soul can be spread all over a particular body. According to the Mundaka Upanishad, this atomic soul is situated in the heart of every living entity, and because the measurement of the atomic soul is beyond the power of appreciation of the material scientists, some of them assert foolishly that there is no soul. The individual atomic soul is definitely there in the heart along with the super soul, and thus all the energies of bodily movement are emanating from this part of the body. The corpuscles which carry the oxygen from the lungs gather energy from the soul. When the soul passes away from this position, the activity of the blood-generating fusion ceases. Medical science accepts the importance of direct corpuscles, but it cannot ascertain that the source of the energy is the soul. Medical science, however, does admit that the heart is the seat of all energies of the body. Okay, there is some comment. Yes, after leaving the gross body, soul carries by subtle body. Yes, usually it's like this. If this next body is supposed to be material again, so soul is coming. Yes, that means the subtle body size bigger. Yeah, subtle body is bigger size than the soul. Yes, yes, yes. It's just around the soul, same like this life earth. So it's accompanying the soul with to the next body. And this is basically what because we think of something at the time of leaving the body. So this thinking, this is basically what is stored in the subtle body when the soul leaves the gross body. And because of this consciousness, because of this subtle body, the next gross body is prepared also. Yeah. So yeah, so as I said, because material scientists cannot see such small thing like the spirit, So they think that there is no soul in the body, but they accept also that from the heart the energy is coming. A new birth takes place, soul comes directly or by previous subtle body. I'm not sure whether I understand the question. Like definitely soul is coming with the subtle body into new gross body when this conception is done. So at that time the soul is entering, or soul even before can be roaming around in the subtle body, because parents, if they are doing these samskaras, they are already meditating on the new child. So this child might be also somewhere around already and preparing to enter the cross body. So in this way, the soul comes with the subtle body into gross body. Yeah. Okay. Such atomic particles of the spirit whole are compared to the sunshine molecules. In the sunshine, there are innumerable radiant molecules. Similar, the fragmental parts of the Supreme Lord are atomic sparks of the rays of the Supreme Lord, called by the name Prabha, or superior energy. So whether one follows Vedic knowledge or modern science, one cannot deny the existence of the spirit soul in the body. And the science of the soul is explicitly described in the Bhagavad-gītā by the personality of Godhead himself. Yeah, so this basically this effulgence of the Lord, these are these small particles, the small spirit souls who are floating there around. This is what basically Brahma Jyoti is also. So 19. Antavanta ime deha nityasya uktak sharirinaha anashino prameyasya tasmadyudyasva bharata. Antavantaha, perishable. Ime, all these dehaha, material bodies, nityasya, eternal in existence. Uktaha are said, sharirinaha, of the embodied soul. Anashinaha, never to be destroyed. Aprameyasya, immeasurable. Tasma, therefore. Yudhyasva, fight. Bharata, or descendant of Bharata. Translation: the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharata. Purport: the material body is perishable by nature. It may perish immediately, or it may do so after 100 years. It is a question of time only. There is no chance of maintaining it indefinitely. But the spirit soul is so minute that it cannot even be seen by an enemy, to say nothing of being killed. As mentioned in the previous verse, it is so small that no one can have any idea how to measure its dimension. So from both viewpoints, there is no cause of lamentation, because the living entity as he is cannot be killed, nor can the material body be saved from any length of time or permanently protected. The minute particle of the whole spirit acquires this material body according to his work, and therefore observance of religious principles should be utilized. In the Vedanta Sutras, the living entity is qualified as light because he is part and parcel of the Supreme Light. As sunlight maintains the entire universe, so the light of the soul maintains this material body. As soon as the spirit soul is out of this material body, the body begins to decompose. Therefore, it is the spirit soul which maintains this body. The body itself is unimportant. Arjuna was advised to fight and not sacrifice the cause of religion for material bodily considerations. So, here Krishna just is giving more arguments to Arjuna that the spirit soul or the soul which are his relatives, it cannot be killed because it cannot be even measured, it cannot be seen. And also the material body is, for sure it will come to an end because it is not permanent. And basically we can see, because the body, once the soul is leaving, the body immediately decomposes. So it means material nature age it only for the soul. There is no other purpose of body, only just to soul to execute his kind of karmas, or in the case of devotees to be utilized in the service of the Lord, and then immediately no need of the body. So this is just very clearly explain how what is the importance and use of the body. Without soul, body has basically no value. But unfortunately, some of the materialistic religions now give some importance to the body, so they want to preserve the body. And also in Russia, there is a kind of, it's called mausoleum, and they preserve the body of one of their leaders, Lenin, because they give some importance to, or such importance to the body, so they want to keep it. Yeah, many people they remember their past lives as memories, also considered material. Yes, it's material. It's just subtle material maybe, but still materials, not spiritual. Of course, there can be basically it can have spiritual dimension, like Jada Bharat, when he was in his previous life, Bharat Maharaj, or in the form of a deer, because he already lived a spiritual life. So he was given this gift to remember, so he doesn't fall again and doesn't go into this trap of taking birth again. So he could remember his past life, which was of the spiritual practice, and that's why in this present life, or in the next life, he was very careful not to do the same mistake again. But usually it's not very standard that we remember our past lives, although some people say they have some techniques how to revive these past times. Even astrology is saying that we can or they can interpret what was happening in the past lives, but for this very exact time of birth has to be measured, I mean, by seconds, because these divisional charts are very sensitive to the exactness of the birth time. Otherwise, it's not possible to use them, because these positions of planets are changing very, very quickly in these subtle divisional charts. So 19. Ya enam vetti hantaram yaschainam manyate hatam ubhoto na vijanito nayam hanti nahanyate. Yaha, anyone who, enam this, veti knows, hantaram the killer, yaha, anyone who, cha also, enam this, manyate thinks, hatam killed, ubho both, to they, na never, vijanitaha are in knowledge, na never, I am this, hanti kills, na nor hanyate is killed. Translation: neither he who thinks the living entity, the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge. For the self, slays not, nor is slain. Purport: when an embodied living entity is hurt by fatal weapons, it is to be known that the living entity within the body is not killed. The spirit soul is so small that it is impossible to kill him by any material weapon, as will be evident from subsequent verses. Nor is the living entity killable because of his spiritual constitution. What is killed or is supposed to be killed is the body only. This, however, does not at all encourage killing of the body. The Vedic injunction is ma himsyat sarva bhutani. Never commit violence to anyone. Nor does understanding that the living entity is not killed encourage animal slaughter. Killing the body of anyone without authority is abominable and punishable by the law of the state, as well as by the law of the Lord. Arjuna, however, is being engaged in killing for the principle of religion and not whimsically. So, yes, soul cannot be killed because it's beyond the impact of the material elements. So material elements cannot affect the soul. Even when we say the soul is floating within the life airs which are of material substance, still it's just Lord's arrangement that he gives us this illusion that we can move or we can float ourselves as a spirit soul within the life airs. But anyway, this is all the arrangement of the super soul, which is managing these movements. Same way like we are in our body and we think that we are moving the body, but it is not so. The body is moved by the material nature. So in this way, soul cannot be affected. But as since the soul is part of the internal potency of the Lord, so this is what how internal potency is moving us, or then we can be also under external potency, which is also the energy of the Lord. So those are in charge of us as the minute particles. And yes, what is here that somebody may come with an idea, okay, so then we cannot kill the soul, but we can kill the body. So because soul is not affected, so it's okay to kill someone, right? So this was already misused in the history many times, especially when the Kali Yuga started. So people started to misuse the Vedic sacrifices to kill the animals just to eat the meat or flesh of the animal bodies. And they took it as a religious performance. So that's why Buddha had to come and bring again non-violence, so people would not misuse these Vedic sacrifices. So basically what he did, he completely abolished all these Vedic things, and only thing he established was ahimsa, or non-violence. And then gradually other acharyas were coming and bringing back the situation to the original state. So either a killing of a human being or animal, there is no difference, because we are stopping the progress of this living entity, because every living entity was given the material body to have some experience, and he has to finish this experience within the body to have some understanding, to have some realization. So when we abruptly end this stay in the body, that's why we are committing this violence, and this is punishable by the laws. Even the state laws, if it's in case of human beings, unfortunately, they don't much recognize that the same soul is in the animals. So at the moment, I would say almost the whole planet is this is not recognized. So animal killing is okay, but human killing is not okay. They think this different thing. Yeah, but in the case of Arjuna, he was killing as principle of religion, as the order of the Lord. So that's a different kind of killing. Same thing like when somebody attacks us, so we have to defend ourselves. So it's not like we are doing it for our pleasure, but we are just protecting ourselves, our body. So this is different principle than just whimsically because we want to have some enjoyment, so we are killing. Also, Kshatriyas used to kill animals because they had to be prepared to protect, so they had to have some training also in the killing. So that's why they were hunting, but also this was somehow properly utilized. It was not just whimsical, it was only for Kshatriyas or administrative class. Okay, so that's it for today. We will continue tomorrow with the other qualities of the spirit soul. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Any comments? Okay. Thank you. Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad-gīta ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktivedanta ki jai.